I had read a book that told me the two most popular years for divorce are year 7 and year 27.
Oh.
7, because that's when the kids come into the picture, is at 7. And when the kids leave the picture is at 27, which is when mom and dad go, oh, wait, I haven't talked to you in 20 years. I don't know if I like you anymore. You need to move out. So we focused on us and not as much on the kids. And if you look around you in the world, you see too much focus, I think, on the kids and not enough on mom and dad. And that's why we have that high divorce rate.
Andrew, we have made it to episode number 3. Can you believe it, sir?
Yes, it's incredible. Episode number 3, and I'm excited for this one. This one's going to be great.
I'm excited, man. We have a special treat for you guys today. Today on the Alpha Dad Show, we have somebody that we respect tremendously. He has been in the home building industry, as he says, since he was about 10 years old. He's worked every different aspect of it. He graduated from Eastern Michigan University. We don't hold that against him. He's a big Michigan fan. But he has been over $2 billion in new home sales. He's been part of the fastest growing new home consulting company with Kingdom Builders. And he is the owner of builderstrainingacademy.com. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Aaron Antos. Yeah, welcome, Aaron. Woo!
Wow, that was an incredible. I want to meet this guy. He sounds amazing.
Well, you are amazing. I remember the first time I met you.
Oh, wait, that was me. Okay, all right.
I remember
Great.
I remember the very first time I met you, I was like, this guy is amazing. And then like the more times I met you, sometimes you meet people and then like you get to really meet them or you get to have dinner with them or you get to, and you're like, oh, like the first impression was the best impression. For you, it's each impression continues to get better. I got to have coffee with you last week and I wish it could have been an 8-hour coffee and stretched into lunch and then stretched into dinner. It was so great and just so much wisdom every time I get to talk to you. So excited to have you on Alpha Dad Show. You are a true Alpha Dad. So excited to have you on here.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm just glad to be here with you guys. I love your new endeavor on this show, and I'm glad to be the trifecta episode, so that's really cool to get into the top couple. That just means that, there's many more to come because I know everything you guys do is successful. So
thank you, Aaron. Thank you.
There we go. Love it. Well, Aaron, I know that, like Colton said, you've been into home building and just building things since you were really, really young. And I think just as men, we like building things, like as kids. My son, he loves building with blocks, and as men, we love building things, building houses, just different things, just like building. And we just feel accomplished with it. And when we build something, we see it, we see what we built, we're like, look at that, that's incredible. And I think as men, we love building a successful family, like just a successful family unit. We feel accomplished by it, but every family and everything we build just requires a very strong foundation. And the foundation, at the end of the day, the foundation of the family is your spouse, because everyone can move away, everyone can grow up, things can change in life, but your spouse is there all the time. Like your spouse is always going to be there. So how important would you say it is to have that just sturdy foundation and solid foundation and relationship with your spouse when it comes to raising a family?
Great question, Andrew. A really good question. I mean, obviously you can go all the way back to Genesis 1:28, where God blessed them and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, and every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So that was God's plan from the beginning, is just to have a multiplication. And that means building things, It also means you better have a wife if you're going to have multiplication. So, because it was Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. So definitely you be able to have that multiplication factor there as well. For me, my wife, oh my gosh. I mean, I'll tell you this, I would not be half the person I am, maybe 10% of the person I am without having my wife in my life. She's been the most amazing blessing. She's the person who prods me and goads me into being better and growing and accomplishing things. She's my biggest cheerleader. We actually, early on when we first had kids, one of the things we decided to do, which I think every dad should do this, is I would come home at the end of the day, and we had made a decision early that Deb was going to be a stay-at-home mom. She was going to help raise the kids while I was going to go run after the business stuff.
Mm.
So we sat down and made that decision together, and she was going to homeschool the kids. So every day when I came home, the kids, when they're little, they come running to dad, like, oh, dad's home, dad's home. They want to wrestle, they want to play. And we made the decision that every day when I came home, the first 20 minutes would be I would sit down and reconnect with my wife. So we sit down on the couch together, we share each other's day with each other, and we tell the kids, hey, you go do something else while dad reconnects with mom. And then after that, you guys come next, because in the God family, you have to have husband and wife connected first, and then the kids come secondary, because there's a day coming when they'll leave and cleave, my kids will, to another, to their wives. And during that time, we're going to be having to reconnect after 27 years or something if we don't do it every day. So that was a really important thing for us and helped us to keep our marriage tight when we're raising kids. I think a lot of people, when they're raising young kids, they get into this mode of like, it's all about the kids. Their whole world revolves around the kids, and they're not paying very attention to each other. And I had read a book that told me the two most popular years for divorce are year 7 and year 27. 7, because that's when the kids come into the picture, is at 7. And when the kids leave the picture is at 27, which is when mom and dad go, oh, wait, I haven't talked to you in 20 years. I don't know if I like you anymore. You need to move out, and that's where it happens. So we focused on us and not as much on the kids. And if you look around you in the world, you see too much focus, I think, on the kids and not enough on mom and dad. And that's why we have that high divorce rate. But I'm sticking in here. This is year 26. We've been married.
Wow.
We dated for 4.5 years before that, because back then I wasn't as good of a closer as I am now. I'm really took me a little bit, but yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
That's great.
I've heard that stat as well. My dad talks about that regularly with my wife and I, that he's like, hey, make sure you guys are consistent going on dates. We have our 3rd kid now. And he's like, make sure that, you're consistent on that, because you don't want to have your kids move out and then you guys kind of stare at each other and twiddle each other's thumb. Like, what's next? Who are you? I got to get to know you again. You want to make sure that's number one most important thing. I think that's a great tip of the, when you come home, reconnect with your wife first. Cause I do feel
love that.
Like I've come home all the time. My kids are excited. My dog's excited. Like it's a whole thing when you come home and everyone's jumping. There's a lot of energy and excitement there. And so making sure that the priority there is with the spouse, because a lot of times she's still she's cooking, she's running, she's doing her stuff. So to make sure like, hey, stop and connect. I think that's a really really good move.
Yeah. It's the pack leader. It's just the same thing that happens with dogs. They have an alpha male. And just to use your analogy of your show, and when the pack leader reconnects with the pack, they all kind of gather around that pack leader. And that's why the kids and the dogs and everybody, it's that way in the household. And so you got to be real mindful and intentional in that. So.
That's so good. Aaron, there's a major attack. You're talking about this pack, right? This nuclear family. And there's a major attack on the nuclear family today. We see that, like Andrew and I talk about when we were kids, we would watch cartoons, and the cartoons, the dad was always kind of this idiot guy. Like he was always like, oh, I don't know what's really going on around here. And like always just a total moron, right? And then as you get older, there's this attack on the nuclear family from a different direction. Like it's originally it's like towards the family, dad's an idiot, and like disconnect from him. He doesn't know what he's actually doing. Don't listen to him. And then once you become a full grown adult, there's this attack that family's not really worth it. They're going to slow you down, right? Like there's this, hey, you can accomplish a lot in life by everything you really need, you can kind of get fulfilled without actually having a family. There's this super attack on the family, but you've had a tremendous amount of success and had a tremendous family. What role has the family actually played in your success? And in talking to young men, is it worth it to have a family?
Oh man, if I could do anything over, I have this conversation pretty regularly. If I could do anything over again, I would actually have more kids. I tell any young man or young couple that I have in my life or comes into my life, I always tell them, I would spend the first 3 to 5 years at least of my marriage getting to know my wife and not
Mm.
have kids during that period of time, because you need to cement that relationship. You really need to get to know each other. I find that, I believe the reason that God made marriage a lifelong thing is because it takes a lifetime to learn how to love somebody else.
Whew.
And so for me,
Mm.
I just really like that is so important to me. But that first 5 years, you're really just kind of getting to know each other and cementing that relationship. Then you introduce kids into the mix. If you drop that into the mix in year one, it's going to get crazy real fast.
Mm-hmm.
You aren't anchored in each other first and haven't built that foundation first. So then introducing kids in, here's the thing I would say about that. I have two boys, and both adopted. You guys have met my boys, but
Mm-hmm.
Levi and Josiah, and they're wonderful young men. But this is the one regret I have, is that I was always so worried about, will I be able to take care of them? Will I be able to make enough money to take care of them?
Mm.
All of those kinds of things that I didn't keep going and have more. And now every young couple that I meet, I'm like, have as many kids as you can. Keep going, be fruitful, multiply, because
That's right.
they are the arrows in your quiver that you're shooting out into this world and accomplishing things. I love my boys. My boys are very godly young men, and they're going to be world changers. In fact, my son Josiah wears this hat that says world changer on it, and he
Wow.
is.
Love it.
And, why not bring up more world changers and have a multiplied impact on the world? I can only do so much. But if I can raise my kids in the nurture and admonition of the Lord and
Mm.
then send them out into this world as a world changer, man, I'm having an impact. I mean, look at the all of the patriarchal figures from Scripture. I mean,
Mm.
so many of them had huge families and had huge impacts. I mean, you can take Jacob, obviously, as a really obvious example. 12 kids. I mean,
Right.
12 sons. I mean, more than that,
Yeah.
but 12 sons. And it's like, look at the impact on the world, So
Mm.
I think
Huge.
there's some people who are probably a little bit afraid they're going to have an Ishmael, and maybe that's why they don't have kids, because they're like, don't want to have that impact on the world. But
Right.
I think kids and family are wonderful. It's I can have a multiplied impact on this world if I can raise up more kids. And you guys need to have more kids. So get busy. 3 is Colton.
Hey, those are
We're
those are
working
amateur,
on it.
those are amateur numbers. Those are amateur numbers.
Love it. No, that was great. And you answered my next question. A lot of people want to know when they should start a family. And I think that was a great answer of about 3 years, 3 to 4 years in. So my wife and I did. We waited 3 years, and it was the best thing. We were able to really get to know each. We were able to lay that foundation and have a solid connection with each other before we started having kids and having these, they take time. You can't focus 100% of your time on your spouse, 100% on your spouse when you have a bunch of kids running around. But it was a great answer. I think 3 to 5 years. I think it's a perfect timeline. I know that as men, we get told all the time that we should spend more time with our family, that we should work less, maybe 40 hours maximum, or less than 40 hours, maybe a 4-day work week, so we can spend more time with our family. We hear that. It's kind of in culture, you should spend more family time over work. Don't prioritize work over family time. But what I see so often is when we get home to spend time with the family, we're glued to a screen.
Mm.
So we leave work, we come home to spend time with the family, as we should be spending quality time, but then we're distracted, whether it's TV, whether it's the phone, whatever it is. We just get home and then we're distracted. And so I know a lot of people who spend less time with their family than other people, but they have more quality time. Like, they know their family more than the person who doesn't even have a job that might spend all of their time with their family. So how important is it to be just mentally present and really spend quality time with your family, even sometimes over quantity of time?
Yeah, I mean, you said it right there, Andrew. That's a great question. I mean, being present is a present. You know, it
Mm.
is a gift to your
Right.
kid. You know, when same thing with your spouse or anybody that you're interacting with, but especially your kids. You know, when you come home at the end of the day, you know, for Deb and I, like I said, we made a decision early on, and we actually sat down with the kids and had a family meeting. If you don't have family meetings and your kids are old
Mm.
enough to talk, you need to start having family meetings. And we do
Wow.
that. Family, we
Good.
sit down and we have these conversations, and we were like, hey, Levi, Josiah, Mom and I have decided that we're going to go run after our dreams and our goals and our aspirations. We feel like God has put stuff on our heart, and we're going to run after it. And so we made intentional decisions, and we said, we want you guys to be on board with this, and you need to help cheer Dad on to go get it every day. And so my kids, man, they did that. When I was young, they were like, go do it, Dad. Like, I'd be going out the door, I'd get high fives from my kids. They'd be
Yep.
like, go get it, Dad. Like, they were fired up for me. And man, when you know you're doing it for them and for your family and of course for God, it makes a difference. And, you know, as you guys know, I've worked a lot of long hours in my life and going after the things that I feel like God has called me to do. But, you know, the making sure your kids understand that is really important. And then when you come back home in the evening, like reconnecting, we always did the 20 minutes with Mom first. And then the next thing I would do is go hang out with the kids and play with the kids when they were little, always spending time with them, always trying to share wisdom with them, and, you
Mm.
know, really just pour into their lives and being intentional about it. We didn't watch TV when my kids were awake. That was our thing. Like when I got home in the evening, there's no TV till, you know, I mean, my wife and I sometimes would watch something after the boys went to bed, but not before they went to bed. We would spend
It's
time with
good.
them.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to do that to keep that connection strong with them. But you also got to let them know, hey, Dad's doing something important when he's not here. And, you know, the other thing too is like I tried to involve them even when they were kids in knowing
Mm.
what I was doing all the time, explaining to them what Dad is doing when he's at work. How is Dad helping other people out there? Because, you know, the family is one thing, but there's also the family of God, which is an extension of your family.
Mm.
And you got to help them to know. So, like early on, I remember we took a couple that runs a ministry in Brazil, and we took them out to lunch. They were back in town. They had pioneered some churches in Brazil, and they came back to Tulsa. They were in town, and they wanted to meet with us. And so we said, great, we're going to bring the kids. And we brought the kids. They were young. And we sat down, had lunch with them, and I asked them at the table, I said, what is your biggest need that you guys have in your ministry right now? Like, what is the number one need? They said, well, we can't get anywhere. We've got 5 church campuses that we've pioneered, and they're kind of spread out. And we're trying to like take buses to get there and whatnot, and we don't have a car. And it was like, okay, well, how much does a car cost? And they told us. And so I pulled out my checkbook. I wrote them a check for what the car cost, the total of what they said they needed, and handed it to them. And these 2 wonderful people, they're awesome people, they just started bawling, you
Wow.
know. And it's like at lunch, my kids are sitting there watching this, and they basically, these 2, you know, people who had given up their whole lives to go to Brazil and start these churches, they're like, this is a game changing, life changing moment for us. We can't
Mm.
tell you how thankful we are. And I turned to my kids and I said, that's why Dad gets up and goes to the office every day. That's why
Wow.
Dad gets up and goes and does this. These guys are leading thousands of people to Christ. I mean, they've got huge campuses now. This thing has
Wow.
grown ginormous at this point. But my kids got to watch that and realized, hey, Dad's not just getting up to leave and, you know, go play games or something all day long. He's doing something.
Hmm.
He has the extra money to go help people. And so it's just, you got to make sure they understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, that there's a kingdom building reason behind it. And when they know that, they're okay with it. They're excited about it.
It's great.
That's really good. My wife always, like, back to before we had kids, you know, whenever I'd leave the house and anything business wise, especially, she'd say, "Go get him, Tiger. Go get him, Tiger." And
Yeah.
my daughter, I don't think she knows anything what that means, but she every day I leave the house, she's like, "Go get him, Tiger," and that's always, you know, kind of our thing at the house. So both my kids now say, "Go get him, Tiger," and or my kids that can talk. I have a third one, but he's only 2 weeks old, so no talking yet. But I'm sure in his baby talk he's saying, "Go get him, Tiger."
That's right.
You know, and Jim Rohn talks about that. He says, you know, what can a man not accomplish if he can still feel his wife's lips upon his cheek as he goes out to take on the day? And you know, I think that's a massive thing. If you can leave, you know, from that place of success, and in that home environment, then what can't you take on? You know, and when you're coming home to that, you know, you deal with all the stuff throughout the day, and you're coming home to that. It's like, man, you know, I could take on a lot of other stuff during the day if I know I'm coming home to a wife that loves me and kids that love me, and I think that's super important. So I love that, Aaron.
That's awesome.
We talk a lot about, like, always get on first base, shooting for home runs when you can. You know, a lot of people just swing for home runs when it comes to their kids. Like, they're like, hey, I'll make up for this. Like, I'm going to do this, and then I'll make up for it. I'm going to take them to the big baseball game. I'm going to take them to the football game. I'm going to win the Super Bowl, you know, kind of thing. What's some advice? And obviously we all know, like, hey, if you can get on first base consistently and then swing for home runs when you get the chance, that's the best move here. What's some advice you have, though, for always getting on first base with your family, you know, like that like, hey, I always, you know, do this, or what's some advice you have for always having little wins along the way with your kids?
Yeah, so I remember when I was growing up, we used to, and I was actually talking to my kids about this on Friday night. We all had dinner together, and we were just kind of sitting around after dinner talking. Man, if you can do that, like, make sure that you're all sitting down at a dinner table without phones in front of you, without a TV on, sit down and have dinner together. I remember in my childhood, we basically did that pretty much 7 days a week. We sat down and had dinner as a family around the same table, not in the living room, not sitting in front of a TV, not with phones in front of us. And we sat and ate dinner and did this thing called having a conversation.
Whoa.
Wild.
Yeah. It's an old school, you know, idea, but
Old fashioned.
so we still do that with our family today. We did this while the boys were growing up. We would always sit down and have dinner together. And so there's something awesome about having a wife that cooks a meal before dad gets home. She's already got it prepped and going. And my wife was amazing at this. And we would sit down when I would get home, and we would, you know, have dinner together, and we would sit and talk about what happened during the day. And one of the questions I always ask my kids is, what did you learn today? Because I want them to be growing. And so I would always ask them, what did you learn today? And I actually do this with all of my employees too. I say, what did you learn today? Because you want to grow a little bit each day. And you call it getting on base.
Yep.
I always tell people, if you can just get 0.1% better each day, if you do the math, 3 years from now, you'll be 100% more effective at whatever you do.
Wow.
You take that on over your entire lifetime, you will multiply your effectiveness in this world so many times over. I mean, if a man lives to be 60, you're going to be 20x, right? So that is worth doing. So it's like, what did you learn today? Because I always wanted them to think about, what am I learning today? How am I getting better? Just little improvements, because if we shoot for, I want to get 10% better today, well, that's not really possible for most people. So just 1%, and that is an incremental thing. And it's like, my kids got focused on that. And so that was something we did, is just, you know, dinners together. And now my boys are 21 and 23. So I still go have lunch with them, man to man. Just me and the boy, you know, so I don't let my wife come to those right now. And she gets a little bit upset about that, but I'm like, these guys are growing into men right now, and they need a man to tell them how to do that. And so
important.
You can mother on them when they come home, but I'm going to take them out. We're going to have lunch together, and I do it every week. And I just make sure I'm connecting with them and talking to them about what's going on. What are the challenges in your life? And, you know, where are you headed? Are you thinking about your intentionality of where you're going? And so that's just something that I do right now as they're kind of growing up, almost grown up. So,
man, that's huge. Those meal times are super important. Jordan Peterson is famous for talks about like the amount of time you spend in your life brushing your teeth is crazy.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
people spend so much time thinking about their vacation, but a vacation is a very small percentage of your life. But you know, how much time you spend at stoplights, how much time you spend, you know, these like daily habits, these daily things are super important. So, you know, like you're probably gonna have less vacation time with your kids than you're gonna have dinner time with your kids, especially if you're intentional about that. So I love that.
Oh yeah,
I Go
especially if
ahead.
you do it a lot. Especially if you do it a lot. If it's a very regular thing. I mean, what did Jesus do with the disciples? He
Yeah,
sat down and broke bread with
Yeah.
them. I mean, it's the same thing. So very
so good.
important. Yeah.
I was at a business training, a business conference, and I actually heard you share the story in front of a bunch of entrepreneurs about your son. And I'm like, I asked you before the show, I was like, can you share that again? Because it encapsulates a lot of pieces of being a dad and what's our role as a man inside of that family unit, and a lot of stuff we've talked about on the show already. Can you share that story of your son and the race and stuff?
Yeah. So, when he was kind of coming through junior high, he was coming up to his high school years. And the night before he started his freshman year, he ran track and cross country, but track was really his thing.
Okay.
And he came up to the night before high school, and he had been a star in his junior high. So I said to him, "Hey, tomorrow you're starting high school. I know they're going to start having practices." And I was like, "Man, you are going to win the MVP. Not only are you going to be on the varsity team, but you're going to win the MVP." And he was like, "Dad, they don't put freshmen on the varsity team."
Right.
Like, well, they haven't before, but they're going to put you on the varsity team and you're going to win the MVP. I told him that.
Wow. And
And he
was
was,
that you just speaking that over him, or was that something like you saw like prophetically? Is it something God was telling you, or was that just like, hey, I see this in him, and I'm gonna call out what I already see in him?
it was something that I knew on
Okay.
the inside is the only way that I
Mhm.
can say it. I knew that he had greatness in him, and not only just in track, but other things too. But I just knew I could see the gift inside of him, and I just knew it. I knew it was going to happen. And so I just spoke it to him because, we need people to speak over us in our
Totally.
lives. Those people who we give the ability to speak into our lives have such an impact on us. And be careful about who those people are. You want the right words being spoken over you. You
True.
think about
True.
what is the language of God? It's not Hebrew, it's vision. When he
Mm.
speaks something to you and you see it on the inside with the eyes of your heart, it is an impact on you. And so I just started speaking things over him, just like God does over us. I said, "You're not only going to be on the varsity team, but you're going to be the MVP." And he was like, "Dad, they don't put freshmen on the varsity team." And I said, "Well, they're going to put you on it." So a couple days later, I come home from work one day and my wife says, "Ask Josiah what happened today." And so I went up into his room and I said, "Hey, what happened today?" And he goes, "I'm on the varsity team."
Nice.
I was like,
Love it.
I told you. And not only are you on the varsity team, but you're going to win the MVP." And he goes, "Dad, it's just the B team. It's not the A team. So it doesn't really count." And I said, "Well, they're going to move you to the A team, Josiah. It's going to happen." And he's like, "Dad, they don't move freshmen to the A team." And I'm like, "They're going to move you and you're going to win the MVP."
Wow.
So then
Mhm.
a couple of weeks later, I come home on another day and my wife says, "Go upstairs and ask Josiah what happened today." So I go upstairs. I said, "Hey, what happened at school today?" And he goes, "Did Mom tell you?" "Yeah, they moved me to the A team." And I said, "I told you." And I said, "Not only are you going to be on the A team, but you're going to win the MVP." And he's
Mm.
like, "Whatever, Dad." So then,
Still, he doesn't get it. Come on.
oh yeah. So then it goes a couple weeks later, and he's running in a race, and he's got this senior on the team. He's a freshman. He's got a senior on the team
Okay.
that he knows is going to be run for the Naval Academy the next year. He's got a scholarship and everything.
Wow.
He's really, really good. And so he knows he's running against him. And Josiah really looks up to this young man. He's a great young man. And so he's running, and he's coming down to the very end of the race on the last lap. It's a 2-lap race for the 800. And he's coming down, and he's about to pass his buddy up. And he slows down at the last second and doesn't beat him.
Oh man.
And as a dad, I'm like, "Oh, like, what are you doing?" I'm like,
Come
"Beat
on.
that kid,"
Yeah.
And so that would have been his first win as a high school student. So I was really upset. And he comes walking up, 20 minutes later after he cools down. He comes up to the bleachers to see me and his mom. And I said, Josiah, what was that crap? And he goes, what? And I said, you were going to beat him and you slowed down and you let him win. And he's like, no, I didn't, Dad. And I said, yes, you did. You're better than him and you just need to beat him. And he's like, Dad. And I knew he really looked up to him. So like he didn't want to beat him.
Yeah.
And so anyways, my wife is like grabbing me like, calm down, Dad, calm down. I'm like, no, I'm not letting this go. You need to go give your best every time. And so anyways, then I could tell I was frustrating him. So fathers, don't frustrate your kids either. So I backed off and then he turns around to walk away. And this young man that that beat him, that he almost beat, his parents come walking up just as Josiah's about to walk away. And his mom, this young man's mom, says to Josiah, why don't you just go ahead and beat him? You know you're faster than him.
Wow.
You slowed down and you let him win. You shouldn't do that.
Wow. Calling him out.
Oh, she did. And Josiah's very respectful. So he goes, yes, ma'am, I'll beat him next time.
Order taken.
Oh, yeah. So then he walks away. I'll fast forward. The very next week, the race is lining up exactly the same way. We're on the second lap. Josiah's closing in on this young man, and it's literally the same finish as the week before.
Wow.
And this time, Josiah goes flying by him right at the end and wins the race. Yeah. And I was like, yes! Like, I'm going crazy. I'm like,
let's go.
Yeah, I'm losing my crap. And so, anyways, then that was the week before the qualifier for state, so regionals. And he's in the next week. So he goes into the next week and he has to win that race to go to state. Okay. And so he's got to go against the 4 fastest guys in the state during this race.
Wow.
And he knows it's the guy who came in first and second the year before and the guy that's his buddy from the team. And so these guys all have scholarships to go run track in college that he's running against. So
and he's still like a freshman.
And he's still a freshman. So every week when he's about to run a race, like right before the race, Josiah would always come up to me and we'd have that father-son conversation. I'd be like, hey, what's your strategy for the race this week? And he'd kind of tell me, oh, I'm going to do this. And, he'd give me about a 5 or 10 minute like spiel on what he was thinking about and how he was going to run the race. And it usually was like pretty well thought out. So this week, knowing he has to go up against these guys, and he just had his first ever win the week before, he comes up to me and I said, so what's your strategy this week? And I'm expecting he's going to give me a 20-minute thing.
Yeah.
And he looks right into my eyes and he says, win.
Woo.
And he turns around and walks away. And I was like,
let's go.
As a dad, you're just like, he got it.
Yeah.
A switch flipped on the inside of him that he's like, I can do this. I'm good at what I do. And there's that moment needs to happen in our kids' lives where they know that they've got something in them and that their father believes in them, that dad believes in them. And so this was the moment that happened in this race. And if you want to play the race, I can tell you something that happened kind of near the end. There's a really cool moment in this race, but I don't know if you can cue it up or not.
Yeah.
But
yep.
So he's there. Well, you'll see him in a minute because he jumps out to like 4th place here.
Okay.
All right, he's got the white shirt and the maroon shorts, and he's in 4th place right here. And his buddy who beat the week before is right in front of him. And then the 2 top guys in the state are the next 2 guys in front.
Okay.
So he's behind the 3 fastest guys in the state, and he's in 4th right here. And this is 2 laps, so he goes around twice.
So it's an 800-meter race.
Yep. And these
Okay.
guys, all three of these guys in front of him are seniors. And actually, the guy right behind him is also a senior, and he also ran track in college as well. So all these guys were going to run in college. So
Wow.
except Josiah, who was a freshman. So here he comes around. This is the halfway point, and he's starting to move up into third right here. Now, you'll hear me in the background here as he gets a little closer. That's me.
He's got a kick.
He's got a kick.
He needs to get a little closer right now, though. So pause it right here. He's got him. Did you hear me there? I said he's got to get a little closer now. Right now he's 20 meters behind or whatever. And I said, oh, he's got him. He's got him. Right here, Dad is like, oh, he already won the race. I'm literally when he's obviously only got a couple hundred yards left and he's pretty far behind. And I'm like, oh no, he's got him. He's got him. And so go ahead and hit play. And this is what God says about us. When we're just a little bit behind, we're like, he's got him. This is what God says about you.
Wow.
He did.
All these people got in their way right here.
Wow.
So that's the end right there. Right there in that race, he took off like he was shot out of a cannon.
Wow.
And in that last 80 meters or whatever, and won that race. But not only did he win the race, he broke the 800-meter high school record as a freshman. He smashed it.
Wow.
And so
That's
there he
crazy.
is. There he is about 2 weeks later, him and I. And if you zoom in on what's in my hand, it's pretty cool. This was 2 weeks later. I don't know if you can zoom in real close on that, but you'll see what it says there. You'll have to probably get even closer if you can. But that is the MVP trophy that I'm holding in my hand that he won.
Wow.
So as a freshman, he won the track team MVP, which is what I thought was going to happen.
Top
the
dog.
other one, yeah, the other one is freshman of the year for his cross country. But so anyway, I just know that that's how God believes in us. And that's how he speaks over us, is he's like, he knows that we have greatness inside of ourselves. And so he speaks that into our lives. And the reason he knows that there's greatness in us is because he's the one who put it in us. And he knows what's in us. So as you're coming around that last lap, don't give up, because God is saying, oh, he's got him. He's got him. I know what I put inside of him. So when you're going through hard times yourself, or when you're struggling yourself, just know that God is sitting there and he's going, you got this. You got this. So that's the story.
So good.
I love that. I love it. So good. So good, Aaron. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Thanks for all the wisdom. I mean, there's some really, really, really good nuggets in there that we're going to hold on to. I'm going to put them on a cup or something and just make sure I see them every day. That is so good. Put it on the wall. I'm going to make sure I connect with my wife before I connect with my kids. I mean, that is just some really timeless wisdom. So thank you so much for coming on the show today and speaking into our lives and into the lives of the other alpha dads that listen to the show. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for being who you are. You guys are a couple of great alpha dads, and I'm just glad both of you are in my life and look forward to many years of that to come.
When I started MyPillow, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Well, since then, with the help of my dedicated employees, we now have hundreds of products, some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium My Pillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code for our $25 extravaganza. Order $75 and over. Your entire order ships absolutely free.
If you want to do anything worthwhile in life, you've got to be hungry. It's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. So every day I was working to develop myself. And that's what you must do.
I promise you one thing. You have never seen any player in the entire country play as hard as I will play the rest of the season.
Get in here! Hey, we got 30 minutes for the rest of our life! 30 minutes for the rest of our life! There were none before me and there will be none after me. Therefore, that makes me the one and only. Young and single and love to mingle, certified, bona fide, indubitably qualified to bring you satisfaction, a whole lot of action. Look out, baby, I'm your love man. I was hungry! I was hungry! You gotta be hungry!
That was so good. Really insightful stuff. That was a really fun show.
I love that. You know, the 20 minutes when you come home talking to your spouse, I thought that was some great advice. You know, I think that's very timely, important stuff. I loved Aaron's story with his son. I thought that was amazing and a good connection. What was some of your big takeaways there?
Yeah, probably the 20 minutes when you come home. That was probably the biggest takeaway. But I just think it was really good to hear his kind of his story with his son and his family, his wife, and how the spouse really is the foundation and how you have to build that structure. That was really good.
The dinner table stuff, you know, I think that's super important. Interestingly enough, my dad had breakfast with me every week for like 4 years. Between 18 and 22, we had breakfast every single week. Every Wednesday morning, we'd have breakfast together. And, awesome. You know, I think that was a really key time for me because you kind of get away from the house, but you don't get away from the values when you have that weekly conversation. So it's a little different season than you and I are in, but I took that to heart. I'm like, okay, that's good because like Aaron's raised some great kids. You know, not to give myself a backhanded compliment here, but I'm an adult who's accomplished and I still love my dad. So I think my dad did a good job there too. So I'm like, okay, taking that to heart and locking that in. Make sure you have meals with your kids, meals when they're young, meals when they're old. But that time's super important. So thankful that Aaron came on our show today. And this show is brought to you by mypillow.com with Mike Lindell. Use promo code DAD, D-A-D. They have all kinds of amazing products on here. You know, like the beds here, Avery showing. We got the sheets, got duvets. You got these. Okay, these little Go Anywhere pillows, they seem kind of cheesy. I'm gonna hit these pretty hard here. These are amazing little pillows. We got like 12 of them now at the house.
Oh,
but
nice.
They also come with like, so you can put seasonal ones on them. They're great for putting on the couch. They're great for like extra.
Yeah, they look like couch pillows.
Yeah, they're perfect for that. They got like little Bible verses on them, American stuff, and all kinds of good stuff. But they also have a whole series of children's ones for children that have little Bible stories on them. And we'll do that with my kids, and like we can go over the stories, and it kind of gives me a point of reference of like, yeah, this was Noah, and this was, you know, these different stories. So your kids get to rest their head on God's word at night. I think those are super cool. I'm a big fan of the Go Anywhere pillows, but they're also super comfy. They just seem to fit in the right places, the right spots, and they're from the same material as his actual 2.0 pillows that are like the grand, like the whole company's named after how great these pillows are. So go pick up something. It's an amazing deal. It's between like 66 and 85% off the site when you use promo code DAD. They're super generous with that. You get free shipping over $75. There's lightning coming down to remind you of this.
There's lightning.
But promo code DAD. At least
deal.
get the pillow. At least get the pillows for every one of the pillows at your house. Refresh those things up. You know, hey, this is Alpha Dad's on here, right? We're gonna be like Alpha Dad moment here. Get your wife some new sheets. You know, a lot of you guys, you got sheets when you were married. It's been a while. You know, it's been
towels.
5 years.
You know, I like the last time most people get bath towels is when they get them from the wedding registry, and everyone ships them bath towels. You're still using the same towels.
It's the same ones. So if you're listening to us and that's you're like, man, I've not got my wife some new sheets or some new towels in a while. Go on right now. Do it today. Right now, go on mypillow.com, type in promo code DAD, and you'll get a sweet discount, and you'll get to support our show, but also Mike Lindell, the great things that he's doing over there. And you get some great products. You get to be the alpha dad in your world. So promo code DAD with MyPillow. All right, you guys, this is your favorite part. This is our favorite part. We love getting to do these reactions in these shows. If you guys want to continue to send us some great reactions, you can send them to our Instagram, AlphaDad on Instagram, or you can also email them to us, info@alphadadshow.com. We'd love to see what you feel like is alpha worthy. So, Andrew, you ready for this?
I am so ready. Let's do this thing.
All right, number one, let's go.
That you finished your coffee, and it's okay to feel that way.
Just so you know, these are just for looking today, not for playing.
So for dinner tonight, we can go for pizza, or we can go for Greek. You can choose.
Before you start that new project, how about we take the tools from the last project and put those away first?
Okay, we're just about ready to leave, so we're gonna finish up here in 5 minutes.
I shoot the puck!
Hey, why don't we try and take 5 deep belly breaths so we can calm ourselves down?
Oh, Bloomer, what do you think about that? Gentle parenting on your spouse, does it work?
Gentle parenting. Well, I'll say this. Communication's huge. I think some of the stuff, they did a good job at communicating, but I don't know how that would go over like with my spouse and I. I don't think it would go too well.
Nope. I don't think some of those things would go over pretty well, but I think that's still pretty funny. They did a good job. That coffee one. I know you finished your coffee, and that makes us sad sometimes. That's a big emotion. I understand. I don't think it's good to talk down to your spouse. Talk to them as if they're toddlers. But communication is good. All right, let's check out the second one.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me. And I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head. And it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
No, see, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See, you're
out.
not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just... Sometimes it's like there's this achy... I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
Yeah, that sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. Ow. If you would just...
Don't...
Try to see things my way.
I love that video so much.
It's so good. It's so good.
True. Yeah.
All right, Bloomer, you are a world-renowned coach. You've coached multi-million-dollar businesses, lots of them. How many clients do you have currently in the business coaching world?
Right now it's about 60. I don't know the exact number. It's about 65.
You coach about 65 different companies on how they can grow their businesses and be successful. If you try to carry some of those tactics back into the home and try to coach your wife, would it go as well as the nail there?
Yeah, I'd probably go a little bit like that video, but you have to listen at some point. Like with a spouse, you've got to listen. You've got to communicate. Be very good at communicating. But I think you have a really good point. Like you can't, like work and home are going to be different. You can't treat your spouse like a client or anything like that because it just doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. But I love this video. I think it's a great point. I think a lot of people can relate to it.
Oh yeah.
But sometimes people just need someone to listen.
Yeah, every guy can relate to that. I've definitely sat there. I love my wife dearly, and I've sat there and listened, and she's like, "Hey, I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to listen." And it's like, you almost got to like bite your fingers, not to get.
Because as men, we're like, we would just want to fix the problem. Like the solution's right there. Just go to the solution. You know?
Yeah.
But And sometimes, it's good. And we talk about this, my wife and I, but sometimes you just have to ask, is this a fix it or a listen conversation? Like, just be straight up and honest about it. Like, what do you want me to do? And I'm going to do that, whatever you need me to do.
I'm ready, whatever you need me to be. That
Right.
is, I think, the best advice I've heard so far on that situation exactly right there. What do you need from me in this exact moment? Is this a listen, or are you genuinely trying to get a solution
And
out of this?
I think that's the best form of communication, as opposed to just trying to like talk it out. And because you could think you're communicating by like talking to the person and trying to fix the problem. What's truly communicating is like going a little bit deeper and figuring out what the root of the cause is, like the issue is, the cause of the problem, and asking, what do you want? What do you need?
Yep.
What can I do for you? How can I help you, be the best husband for you? So sometimes that's
so
what people
good.
need.
Well, and in light of what Aaron was talking about earlier about coming home, listening, having that 20-minute engagement time with the spouse, I think that's where this next one comes into play. Avery, let's roll the next one.
Right, lady, right, fellas, is the one you look at and you say to yourself, you know what? I love this girl so much that I am prepared to come home from work every day, sit down in front of her, and listen to her story. Now I know it's not going to have a beginning or an end. I realize that. She's going to introduce new characters along the way. But I'm going to listen with love and empathy. Going to offer no solutions. Even if there is a clear solution, I will not offer that solution.
Marriage 101.
That's
We got it from Aaron's perspective and this amazing comedian's perspective, both sides of it. Bloomer, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's really funny. It's funny, but it's also like, I don't know, like when my wife's at home raising our son, like I don't know everything that happened. And it's good to get back on the same page, but also like with the nail video, with back to that one, you don't know how it got there, what's going on. So you kind of have to get filled back in and just, keep your hands and legs in for the ride and just listen.
My wife last night, actually, I was out working and doing some stuff, and she called me. She goes, "Hey, here's the deal. I know you worked hard today. I need you home now. It's bath time, and the overtime's done. I need you home. I need to pass the baton off on these kids right now." She hit the limit, and
at the level.
Yeah, and before I came in and started, coming in and getting all cuddly with her and stuff, I, took the kids, made sure they were taken care of, did the teeth brushing thing. I put them to bed on some trumped up charges, early bedtime, got them put down, and then we connected and allowed the air out of the balloon. My dad gave me that analogy a long time ago. He said, when you're working with somebody and they're, emotionally they're filled up, don't try to come in and try to like offer solutions or come in, doing stuff. Just let the air out of the balloon. And sometimes that means just listening, sitting there and listening. The alpha dad thing to do is to sit there and listen, let the air out of the balloon. Hey, tell me about your day. Tell me what happened. How'd that make you feel? Getting the air out of the balloon. And then you can have cuddle time and everything else, whatever you're needing. But you got to get the air out of the balloon first. And 20 minutes a day, I think that's a really good rule. What do you think about that, Andrew, from Aaron's talk?
That's great. I really love that. That's probably one of the biggest takeaways, because sometimes it's so hard to not like, it's just so easy when the kids are running up to you to just grab the kids and go play with them and go have fun or go do something that you were thinking about all day long. Man, I need to take care of this thing at the house or whatever. And you've got all these distractions. But I think that's a really good takeaway and probably one of the best nuggets out of that show of just when you get home, spend 20 minutes with your wife, allow her to kind of decompress and explain what's going on, what's happened, and get on the same page. I love that. That was great.
Man. Well, thank you guys again for joining us this week on another episode of the Alpha Dad Show. Again, this show is brought to you by mypillow.com. Go use promo code DAD, D-A-D, promo code DAD. Can't misspell it. You can spell it frontwards, backwards, up, down, vertical, horizontal, any which way.
Wow.
D-A-D. and get the alphas in your life, some awesome clothes. Andrew, what's some of your favorite My Pillow stuff that somebody can grab right now?
Oh, man, I love the slippers. I wear the slippers all the time. I love the slippers. But I will say that I have slept many, many hours on the extra large dog bed. I actually have.
Tell me, is it when you're in the dog house in your marriage, your wife sends you out, she's like, all right, go to the dog bed with you, Andrew, to the dog bed.
No. We were on a trip. We were doing the Reawaken America tour, and before we left, we had a big van, and we decided that we're going to get a dog bed and sleep on it all the way home. And so we would trade off, taking turns who was driving and who was sleeping on that dog bed right there. I, as a human, probably have more experience than any other human with this dog bed, and can say that it is incredibly comfortable. And if it's good enough for humans, it's definitely good enough for your dogs.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And we said earlier, Andrew himself is a business coach. But if you want to learn more about business coaching within the Thrive Time world, you can go to thrivetimeshow.com. Schedule your own 13-point assessment. If you're a business owner, if you know a business owner, do that. Let Clay Clark know that the Alpha Dads sent you, and he'll hook you up with a what should you do next to maximize your business. And thank you guys for joining us this week for another Alpha Dad show. We'll see you guys next week.